Jordan Turner, a seasoned 911 operator, begins her shift, the call center buzzing with a constant stream of emergencies. A frantic man reports his wife and child stabbing themselves. Another describes his girlfriend's jump from a balcony and a hit and run. 911 operators are always in the mix, constantly juggling life and death at the other end of a phone line. Jordan gets a call from a young woman, Casey Wilson. Her words are muffled, but she explains that an unknown man is attempting forced entry to her home. She is alone and terrified. Jordan walks through the procedure with Casey locking the doors, turning on the lights and arming herself. But just as Jordan gathers information, the line goes dead. Jordan knows that she needs to stay calm and focused, and she is determined to figure out what happened to Casey. Back at her home, Jordan's boyfriend, a cop, has just learned of the young woman's disappearance and is determined to find the one responsible. Jordan's boss, while trying to comfort her, also warns her not to get too involved emotionally, because these calls often have unpredictable endings. After a tense day, Jordan and her cop boyfriend take a break, but their conversation is quickly interrupted as another 911 call comes in. It is a frightened girl reporting her mother has been stabbed, and that her stepfather is responsible. He is standing in front of her. Not knowing she is speaking to 911, Jordan quickly switches into work mode, trying to get her attention away from the knife as she calls for assistance. The girl is also able to provide a name of the man as police race towards the location. But then another call comes in that demands Jordan's full focus. A kidnapping with no location. Lee Templeton is in a trunk calling for help. Jordan is determined to bring her to safety. Working from her instincts and training, Jordan talks through the fear, all the while looking for clues to discover exactly where the victim is. The phone does not have a GPS signal, but Jordan discovers it is using a cell tower that can be located and triangulated, but that process takes time. She works to keep Lee calm, knowing the victim's abductor might discover she has been calling for help. Finally, Jordan finds that the last call is a call she can never forget. The phone has gone dead, and she knows it's bad. 6 months later, Jordan has joined the training unit at the center and is leading a session. It is clear she is deeply troubled by that last call because she still does not know how it ended. As she reviews emergency protocols, the importance of calm, focused actions, and also the need to remain emotionally detached, all the while trying to instill her expertise and confidence to the new recruits. As she leaves, she overhears an emergency coming through another operator. It is the same voice from 6 months prior. It is a girl calling for help, who says her mother has been hurt. Jordan steps forward to take the call, discovering that a new kidnapping is underway, the same voice, and the same disposable cell phone. She is determined to bring this new victim home safely. The police are dispatched, and Jordan works with the caller to gain more information, while not being able to see her. She focuses on getting information about the suspect and the vehicle, as well as a last name for the young victim. Casey Wilson. As a police helicopter starts to fly into the area, the call is disconnected. Jordan's worst nightmare has begun once again, and she has no choice but to try again. Jordan, a 911 operator, desperately tries to help a kidnapped teenage girl, Casey, escape from the trunk of a car, but the call is breaking up, and there is no time. Jordan instructs Casey to move a tail light with a screwdriver, then stick her arm out of the broken light to signal other drivers. Casey's kidnapper, Michael Foster, hears the commotion she's causing inside the trunk and quickly veers off the highway in a panic, pulling into a gas station. Jordan's supervisor informs her that the call is coming from a prepaid phone, making it very difficult to trace. A woman calls into 911 after seeing a woman frantically waving her arms from the trunk of a car, but they soon realize the call is also coming from the gas station. Jordan instructs Casey to get Michael's wallet. As police and first responders rush to the scene, Jordan frantically asks what is inside the trunk, and Casey reveals, with growing alarm, that she sees a shovel and plastic, implying that she will be buried. A detective gets a lead confirming that Michael Foster is wanted for another murder. They arrive at the location and find the car with a body in the trunk. Casey then reveals that Michael forced her out of the trunk and she's in the kidnapper's limo now. Jordan starts to panic, but the supervisor calms her by reminding her that they are fighting for Casey's life. Jordan is on the phone with the distraught Casey when they realize that the kidnapper is taking her somewhere more remote, and she sees a white can of paint in the trunk, which is when Michael starts attacking his earlier victim. Jordan, frantic, says she's going to take Michael down when Casey screams and her call is cut off. Then, Casey manages to signal other motorists by sticking out her hand with a variety of colorful bracelets on it. Another motorist calls 911 to report her, and they are able to confirm the location. Casey, still in the trunk, is given instructions to try to get out when she and the trunk start getting covered with paint, which is what caused the phone call to cut off. When police arrive at the car, they're able to take down the first suspect, but it is not the main kidnapper. They realize he had a passenger and are on the hunt to find him. He pulls over, switches vehicles, and puts Casey into the trunk of the limousine. He is about to drive off again when the gas station attendant tries to intervene and is brutally burned alive. Casey manages to tell Jordan that the man's name is Michael. The police get a match to that name when they look at the fingerprint left on the bottle of chloroform used in the abduction. The 911 team realizes they have to locate the man quickly, but they need the location. They have a name, Michael Lewis Foster. They realize that he's heading to his childhood home where they find an old photo of him with his sister, which the dispatcher recognizes as Casey's likeness. When they finally find him, they have no way to reach Casey when finally Michael's phone connects and Casey begins to cry and talk about her family and the love she has for her mother. Michael hears the conversation and brutally stabs his former victim, then rips the phone out of Casey's hand in a rage. He then hits her repeatedly with the butt of the screwdriver and tells her to shut up. Jordan instructs Casey to stick a sharp object in Michael's eye, and Casey does. The 911 team gets a match for Michael Foster's address in Santa Clarita, California, and as they begin to mobilize, the call goes dead. They send out an Amber Alert and rush to the scene. At the house, Michael's childhood home, she instructs them to check the license plate. The police search the childhood home, but it's empty. The police then receive a call that the Lincoln is on its way into the mountains when a sudden surge in electricity causes them to lose Casey. When Jordan makes the call and has Michael confirm his name, and as she begins to calm Casey down and starts the process of getting her to describe the vehicle, Michael gets extremely agitated. Casey had the man on the phone, and she was begging to be released from his clutches when the transmission ended, and they were unable to make contact again. The call cut out when the car was being doused with gas, and Michael was set on fire. As the police search the house they have been led to, Michael reaches a gas station and violently attacks the attendant and fills up with gas. The police arrive to take him down, and the kidnapper is found in a field. They have a match to his name and his fingerprint as being the same man who killed Lee Templeton. Casey is still alive, but she's scared, and Jordan's next job is to keep her talking until rescue can be reached, but the call cuts out. Jordan is told to go home by her boss after a traumatic event, but she's too focused on the missing girl to leave. Meanwhile, we're with the missing girl, Casey, who's being held captive. She attempts to escape but is immediately caught, drugged, and has her hair violently cut. In a terrifying display of control, her captor cleans her up, using her head and a sink to start the process. Preparing her for something unknown, he seems obsessed with how she looks, combing and cutting a strand of her hair, then places a mask on her face, continuing with his bizarre preparation ritual. A radio blares as the captor, Michael, begins a strange procedure, removing her clothes. He uses tape to hold her down. He uses some kind of pump as Casey fights him. He then puts a tube in her mouth. She's helpless and screaming, but Michael keeps going. Jordan is now at home, going through the audio logs of the call she took that had gone wrong, and now feels that she let Casey down. She then gets a call from a detective that she had worked with earlier in the movie. He informs her of where they had found Michael's car after he had been spotted fleeing earlier. Jordan suddenly has a feeling. She gets in her car and leaves, arriving at a remote house and finds Michael's cell phone buried in some dirt in the backyard. As she finds this, Michael is prepping for something sinister in his torture room. Jordan enters, and Michael, clearly caught by surprise, appears distressed. Casey uses the distraction and fights back. This leads to a tense fight, with Michael attacking Jordan. She throws him around the room and then manages to escape, running away in terror as the movie cuts to the police arriving in the area where the car was found. Jordan enters an opening, with Michael behind her. She hits him with something she grabs. They end up fighting again, ending with her face down in the tub. As the two are fighting, they both appear to be reliving horrific memories from their pasts. Jordan is shown to be a strong and resilient fighter who is driven by the trauma that she herself faced in the past. Michael, we can see, is not as strong and is overwhelmed by the reality of the current situation that he has gotten into and the events in his past. After fighting, Casey wakes up and escapes, while Jordan runs into the house as the movie cuts to the police arriving at the site. Michael starts the water and begins washing Casey as she escapes, while the police finally arrive on the scene. Jordan, desperate, searches the house, going through all the rooms. Then she ends up finding Casey, but is then attacked by Michael. After a struggle, she is seen putting the phone in her pocket, while Jordan is shown fighting back against Michael. He falls to the floor, clearly defeated by her rage, but he then is able to capture her and begins an attack on her. He begins washing her hair and then tries to give her a kiss. Casey escapes once again, while Michael continues in his twisted behavior. Casey finds a phone and quickly dials 911. Jordan, realizing that Casey had escaped, heads toward the stairs. Michael, clearly out of control and now losing, has a final breakdown as he falls and cries over the missing girl. Jordan is shown standing over him and says, "It's already done," as she looks down at Michael before the scene ends abruptly. Thanks for tuning in. Stay curious, stay awesome, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more amazing content.